Okay.
All right. So we can get started
Yeah,
today.
fantastic, fantastic. Let me see, where are we then? So we love each other. So every time that we see each other, the party begins. That's what it is.
It's true.
So I don't know. I'm not really prepared this time. I didn't prepare very much, other than Ellen gave me um, just an idea about today topic. And I want to ask you if any of you have any questions or anything about the last conversation that we had. If there's anything that you would like to guide our being together today. The world is going through an extraordinary change today,
Yeah.
as you know, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's a wonderful thing. I mean, whatever has happened is just an unfolding into more, and for a moment it feels extraordinarily confused. But we know that the confusion is nothing other than dissolving all those misunderstandings and complexities and madness that we have inherited within our linear mind and our old mind.
Mm,
But it's a natural thing that's happening. So we're always celebrating the release into the perfection of the moment.
yeah.
So that's the most wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, somebody's coming to visit
Oh,
Nancy.
Nancy. Mhm.
Yeah. And so anyway, there's no questions or anything. So should I start living or
But Ellen,
Yeah.
that the last time we were together, when somebody spoke, then it took up the whole
Yeah,
screen.
yeah, it's happening right now. It's on my screen. It's that way. If you wanted to do that, you could go and view and go to speaker.
Okay,
Yeah, so then you'll see the big picture, but it's being recorded this way with the big.
with the big picture. Good.
big picture? Yes.
So only the speaker is on the picture.
Sure. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yay.
And,
Yes. The big picture is the great perspective, right?
yeah,
The great
tell us
perspective.
about the big picture.
The great perspective is an attribute of the mind, of the new mind, which is actually the whole field of consciousness existing in the atomic nature of life for all of us to be able to connect to a completely different world, which is the world that we really are, but we are finally coming into correspondence with it after thousands and thousands and thousands of years of being inside of a system of mind that was constantly thinking us without us knowing, and putting us inside of a field of mind that was always interpreting things from the perspective of yes, no, no, yes, maybe, all the attributes that existed within the dualistic mind. So within the new mind, the great perspective means that we get not only being inside of the field of consciousness that assists us to be free from the idea that it's something that we have to accomplish to be with it, but we are all out of the blessing of life inside of it, and we are all learning to appreciate it inside of that knowing and that experience. And the great perspective means that the mind, as it exists in this new whole field of reality, understands all things past, all things future, and all things now. So the perspective means that we are learning that everything is an open book. Everything that we see has not only its immediate reflection to us, but if we want to, can inform us about many things that existed with that particular seeing. Seeing another human being, for example, many times through the history of evolution, we have connected to a being in which we see them completely in the first moment that we encounter it. And other people may not, but that was like an aspect of our soul that recognize our beings through the vibrational communion that we share with unity. But now it's different. It's available. The whole thing is available. And it's called the great perspective because we get to really, in whatever degree we are interested, we get to know another person completely in the moment. We get to see an object that we admire that is reflecting us. and may tell us the story of what it came into being, or a representative meaning that it will come to us. Everything is inside of a whole field, and we have access to it, and it becomes magical because it's no longer subject to our imagination. It's really actually the reality itself encountering us. So it's not a wish or we want to interpret it that way. It is really our natural communion with the reality that we were always, forever, in time searching for, and now we're here. So that's the meaning of the great perspective. It is the 10th dimension, the 10th name of the 10 names of the the dimension, the 10th name of the consciousness as it exists within the dimensions. And the 10th dimension is foundation paradise. Remember foundation paradise? So foundation paradise meaning that we finally are in the planet Earth, not only interconnected with the mother planet and the planet, regaining our natural state of being, and interconnected through all that centering and all that connection with the whole planetary world, what we call universal intelligence, but also interconnected what we consider in time the thought of being paradise. Paradise, in through times, has interpreted to be the center of the universe itself. Not just center of the planet, but the center of all planet, the paradise, the place in which we said God forever existed, waiting for us to come there when we departed into the greater fields. In reality, paradise was always ever present and always will be, but it got interpreted in that particular time. We could, because we didn't have access to the whole perspective yet. We'd only have access to certain understandings, experience that got created in time, and they were interpreted in many different ways: religions, philosophies, psychologies, art, many of the attributes of life, which were beautiful. But now it's different. We are all interconnected with paradise, and paradise is the center of the planet Earth, it's the center of the universe, it's the center of ourselves, because we are paradise. We are simultaneously interconnected with paradise. So everything that we see it from the eyes of renewal, because paradise is 100% renewal, because it existed within the reality that never looks back. It's always the recreation of life as an eternal existence and as an eternal celebration of the glory of God, which in that sense, God has many, many, many names. You know what I mean? It's not like the gods that perhaps we interpreted in evolution, but it's the God is the actual intelligence of our being, reconnecting with all things and receiving from all things ourselves as well. It's like an interchange of intelligence. What we see is what we get in. What we get in is interpreted inside of the whole perspective. The whole perspective allows to understand all things because each of us is all things. And inside of the being and being all things, we are naturally taking care of everything, not by the labor of it, but by knowing that we are the renewal of all things by the act of seeing. Seeing, yeah, wonderful.
Christian,
Yeah.
I know the harmonic convergence and people talk about 2012. So why now?
Why now? Well, the harmonic convergence is very complex. It was interpreted many, many, many different ways, because in the harmonic convergence, when it happened, everybody that got together to celebrate that coming got interpreted from the perspective of what the person was in it. So certain people interpreted, oh, it's going to be a new consciousness. Certain people have said, oh, this is the beginning of the age of Aquarius. This is something we entered into a new paradigm of consciousness. So it was all relative to each of us, because we were all even though we were all together in that particular event in 1987, we all saw it from where we thought it was. So even if there was a common desire, receiving a new world, what does it mean, receiving a new world? From where we were. So when the harmonic conversions came into being, it became interesting because after we experienced that together, and I talk from my experience being in that meeting in Los Angeles, after all being together, then when the moment came and the moment ceased to sort of be celebrated because it was in a specific moment and it was in different places of the world, we all had time together. And it was like the flower children, eating, celebrating, dancing, doing all the things that we used to accustomed to do. So each person got took with that whatever was in their soul and desire, even though the totality of that particular system interpreted as being something that will be known as that came more and more present, because the harmonic conversion brought a changing in the light. What happens is that in that moment, the entire unity of the consciousness, human consciousness, universal consciousness, and the supreme intelligence that is God, merge it in one instant. That particular projection, if you may, that it was already existing within ourselves, because we were waiting for home and the place when we can come back to fulfill the nature of our spirit. So when that happens, that became the moment in which everything changed in one instant, because it was like light. Let me see if I can explain it. It's simple. Light has a holographic imprint. When you have Italia.
Christian, hang on. I have to change rooms.
Okay. All
Don't
right.
go anywhere.
No, I stop.
I have a nice little house fairy
And now
here.
we can see your house. We'll see if everything is clean and wonderful. We'll let you know if it's something that's not.
I know.
Everything
Well,
is beautiful.
it's gonna be. Okay. I'm almost ready to join again. Okay.
Wonderful.
All
So,
set. Go ahead.
So returning to light,
Yes.
I was trying to explain the intelligence of light. Remember that we in our studies we recognize that we read through physics that all that we think, all the light that we see is reflection. Yeah, it's light. We cannot see light. We can only see the reflected upon form, and that becomes what we see. But just to return into light, remember that a dahlia is a dahlia, a flower, for example. When the light comes into being and the plant begins to grow, and then its time comes, according to the seasons, the dahlia appears, and then it begins to open, it begins to open, and begins to open. So the dahlia is a holographic imprint of its own beauty, like everything. So what happened in the moment of the harmonic conversions, that a new light came into being that made the whole experience of life to be essentially connected in its human, universal, and God perspective. The whole thing, it became the light of the world, the light that we see, the light that will always assisting us to pursue our sense of wholeness. So holographically, in the moment that the harmonic conversions came into being, we all have access for the first time to the original imprint of wholeness that existed within ourselves, that not only conceal our human experience, but also our essential experience, either to be love, either to be the intelligence that is all creation, or either to be our essential communion with God, and a communion with life that now became ever present because it was simultaneous with paradise. So that's what happened in that time. So when that occurred in that particular time, the many people who organized it the celebration, had many names and many stories about it. And one of the thing, I think I told you, one of the people who were organizer was called Jose Arguelles. And Jose Arguelles, along with his wife, was the one who brought many people and contacted many people in the world to celebrate that time as, for him, the renewal of the Aztec calendar, a specific calendar called the Aztec calendar. So it became very complex, as I said, because we all interpreted inside of our own essence. For some people will be the second coming, for some people will be Buddha, for some people will be nothing, but it's just the perfection of their own self. Who knows? It's impossible to really trying to generalize. But because that interpretation was so vast, the people who organized it said that it will take a few years to really know what that change was, because our own mind could not interpret it, what it was occurring, because it only had the possibility of interpreting it inside of the traditional imagination of the mind, inside of that system. So they created this new time that it was called 2012. Do you know what 2012 means in that time? Okay, 2012 became for many people in the world the time that it would be the end of the world. It was in 2012, and it was again another specific time and so forth. But it was complex because many people interpreted the end of the world be that we all disappear in an explosion and all form transforms itself into something else. It wasn't that. It was just that the reason it was called the end of the world, because seemingly the traditional mind from which we interpreted the idea of the harmonic convergence and the new world have acquired a specific amount of experience through the beings and the planet that the new world began. And that, so again, it became like the celebration of the many things, again, interconnected inside of the things. But from that perspective, what happens that each of us became more and more acquainted with the possibility in the mind that a new consciousness will come into being. It's very, because in the linear mind, we will never think about a new consciousness coming into being. It will be a crazy thought, because the mind inside of that particular system will never believe that it could be another system of consciousness that one can interconnect, other than the idea of God or certain things, but not consciousness itself. So that's what happened. So then what happened, like the Dahlia, each of us inside of that system now, inside of the whole perspective, it has a total remembrance of our essential nature. And the remembrance of our essential nature is extraordinary, because sometimes it can be the remembrance of things that you carry in your memory as self, an immediate family, or events that you have enriched you spiritually, mentally, or physically, and events that we treasure inside of our human perspective. But we also have access now to the cosmic perspective. So the cosmic perspective is completely different than the human perspective, because it exists in the realms of wholeness. It doesn't exist only in the experience of the planet Earth. Yeah? And as you know, in the traditional consciousness, all that we have forever was the endless repetition of the traditional conscious recreating itself forever into whatever system was, to perpetuate the memory of the spirit or the soul, waiting for the time that eventually will interconnect with reality, the reality that is the new consciousness. So the universal intelligence is the part of ourselves that allow us to really have a different communion with God itself. That God is beginning to become more and more present as being nothing other than the nature of ourselves. Each of us is the God itself, and we get to have the attributes that they were given within our originally spark of light. Each of us is a spark of light, and we are receiving ourselves inside of that spark of light that has a universal intelligence, a human intelligence, and then the two together merge in the third one, which is the supreme intelligence that is the mind of God. And it's complex because we say mind. God doesn't really have a mind. It is the intelligence of all things, disregarding of what we consider to be mind, categorizing things. The God that we are doesn't categorize. It is the union of all things, the experience of all things, the blessing of all things, the intelligence of all things. So we are, for the first time in the history of our humanity, in the great adventure of time and eternal time. It's a lot, that's what I'm saying. Because we never, as we know, in our evolution mind, and the traditional mind, which was beautiful because it brought us here, we can only imagine the same story over and over and over again. It's like seeing, when you see a movie, it's always the archetypes of the movie. If it has any drama, it will have the same archetypes forever and ever and ever. And at the end, it will end well. And then it will create a sequels. Or if it runs well, we just go home and
If it's a big hit, you create
another story that we, and for us will be like, that will be interpreted the idea that tradition, like in a Christian tradition, just to tell you, you will always enjoy forever inside of that story the idea of Easter. And you would always celebrate the crucifixion, and you eat the cake and you eat the bread, and then we went from the next year and blah, blah, blah. So in the story of the traditional story, it was always the repetition of its own essence, self-enclosed inside of its own essence. In the universal story, it's different because we are unveiling a larger heart because it loves all things, a larger mind because it is all things, and a larger communion because it shares the physical reality that is the moment of life. So we live in the atomic reality, which we call the eternal moment. So it's different in that sense. And the third one, our communion with the third entity, which is God itself, is fantastic because we are the creators of a new world. Each of us are the manifestation of the conscious awareness of the new life, the new world, the new paradigm in which the whole planet, the traditional mother planet, is going through an enormous amount of transmutation because each of us, as we become more connected to the original imprint of ourselves, all that we wanted to do is to take care of the house, take care of the garden, take care of the planet, take care of the water, take care of the body, love everybody, connect them, empower them, assist them. Everything becomes a new reality in which the moment is always inside of creativity, not inside of the recollection of time. But if we go inside of the recollection of time that existed inside of the great perspective, it will always be to enrich us more because we will get to understand the essence of that happening and how now we are changing it and transmuting it from that whole understanding. Yeah, the story of our humanity was unbelievably wonderful when you think about it, It's fascinating. For me, when I began to understand that, I said, okay, now I really would like to learn all the books and, all the traditions and learn all the philosophers and everything. But I said, well, that's dangerous because that means I'm going to put my life back inside of that story. So since I am that story, I can really connect more immediate to that particular essence that comes into being. And I said, okay, whatever it is that I wanted to know, I can open it up. And then
You can just go on Google.
I'm sorry, or you can Google. Exactly.
You don't have
You
to
can
take
Google.
courses at the university anymore, you
I
know.
know, I know. Isn't that
Whatever
wonderful?
you want to know.
That was the beauty of the traditional intelligence. The traditional intelligence, what is called IE inside of the technology, is that we have recorded every single discovery or just about everything in knowledge and remembrance and everything. And it's all existent in this thing that we call the phone, that any one moment you can say, okay, Siri, tell me this. And Siri will come with no time and tell you blah, 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 this, that, 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 that. So everything became instantaneously present in front of us. And in reality, eventually, we will not need the phone in that Siri in that form, because we are learning more that information exists in the ethers. That is where Siri gets the information, right? It exists in the field. It doesn't exist in the head of Siri, right? It doesn't exist in the head of artificial intelligence. It exists in what we call the field of creation. So,
But Christian, I feel that that information, I mean, it exists, but it's all based in the past. So it's all interesting, but what I see now as what's coming up for us is something completely new. So
yes,
that's a field that existed, and it's the story, and it's interesting in a certain way, but you know, what's coming is we don't know.
well,
I
in
don't.
reality, no, that's the difference. I think that what it is not that we are recollecting. The future is the recollecting of the knowledge of the old stories. The future is not the recollection of the knowledge of the whole story. The future is actually a part, in essence, within ourselves that unveil within the field of awareness. And it's cosmic because it is not, it may not necessarily be inside of our recollection of time. It's more related to the actual, like the Dahlia, more the unveiling of the original design within each of us, which is as enormous or simplistic as it is God. The whole thing. So it's important that it's not that we are repeating the past, it's that we are regaining a fountain of information that it was always dormant or sometimes momentarily awake in time when we were in the traditional consciousness. And now it's becoming present within us with an enormous attributes of beauty, understanding, color, form, beauty, the natural healing of our physical body, the treasure of seeing light, all the different attributes that we have associated with one moment of enlightenment became the natural enlightenment that is our physical human life. We are the natural enlightenment that is our human life. So remember that in the past, we have moments of what it will be called moments in which transcendence, and moments in which we call let me see, what would be the words that we used to, an epiphany, yes, or a moment of absolute stillness that we were in the presence of God, or in the church when we used to perhaps have a moment of union with what we call in ourselves the transcendence, and then we became instantaneously connected to the sense of ecstasy that shows up in different ways. It shows up as knowledge, it shows up as seeing light, or seeing an object to be more beautiful than ever, or to recover it and remember it within yourself that you didn't know that we had it. So anyway, that's what happened. But those were moments of absolute awareness inside of our own field of what in the past was called enlightenment. Now, the three senses of ourself, the human, the universal, and the the supreme intelligence that is God, is another natural state of ecstasy, which is the natural moment of our human life. What does it mean to live in ecstasy? You know it because all of you experienced that already. But can your mind assist or allow you to what it will be, because it's not a question, allow to realize that the natural experience of your life is 24/7 a state of ecstasy.
I think that's what I was getting at with the sense of simultaneity of the
Yeah.
reality,
Yes.
and that idea of and is it the same for everybody? Will it be the same for everybody?
I think that the state is the same for everyone because it's only one state ultimately, that it is the natural state of our being. And the natural state of our being is not an individual interpretation of myself. It's really actually my connection with the whole field that we call life, whole field that we call nature, the whole field that we call God. I do exist as a natural individual, in not interpretation, or I could say interpretation, in individual experience, that what I am experiencing is the sum total of the field become.
You keep freezing, Christian.
Yeah, but it's always the same because is because it values as kind of a weird
Your
time.
your internet is freezing a little bit, so we're missing some stuff, Christian.
Should I touch something? Should I repeat that?
Yes, please. You're freezing again. Oh, bummer.
Like that.
I
Still
know.
freezing?
Yeah, you come in and out a little bit, but
Right, but you can hear me, right?
yeah, we can hear you now.
It's
but,
just a temporary moment that what I am is everything.
yeah.
It's not just me
Well,
talking.
and I think
I mean, that's what
you know,
that's what it is.
yeah,
You
I
don't
think
have to
that
see
is,
me,
yeah,
but
no,
maybe I come up.
I think that's that sense of what love is, what
Yeah, the sense of love.
the
Love is.
connection of love. Yeah.
Yeah, love is love and energy in motion. We said that love is all there is, and all there is love. Yeah, and then love is the natural momentum in which the universe is expanding into infinity. So, momentum of love is actually the creation of creation. The whole field unfolding inside of its own wholeness as it is perceived by billions and billions and billions of dahlias or human beings or plants or trees or animals, whatever you want to call it, is all inside of that field now. So that's what happened. So the futuristic nature of myself, if I were to put it in that content, is that in my communion with my human, universal, and God's intelligence, I get to really know many, many facets of myself that I never even dreamed of before. And they are a big deal, but they are not, because it's just part of the field. It's not like all of a sudden I'm going to be putting a crown and be running around the house with a crown, or I'm going to see. Because in the reality of that particular field of consciousness, if I separate myself by aggrandizing the experience in any form from my own innocent sense, I am separated from it because I'm no longer inside of the field. I am momentarily crystallized by my own definition. So once we understand that, it makes it simple because you can just be in the totality of the beauty, but I don't need to attribute it to myself, even though in the ultimate reality, if I say rightly so, that the self that I am is the totality of human synchronicity, I will be okay. You know what I mean? Who I am as a human being is the totality of all human reality united as one, the oneness that exists within wholeness. And each of us is that too, but it's something that it comes through our own self in the proper time, or proper time is not the word, because then you go to process. It will come as you naturally experience the ecstasy that is life itself. And that's what's going to happen. It's inevitable. The world is inside of a new system of fulfillment that it could never be stopped, because it's not subject to a stopping frame. It is inside of its own existential movement. And the whole existential movement is actually the reality of universal life, not the reality, not the innocent reality of our human experience, as in the past. You know what I mean? We were all inside of that system. So it's different. So anyway, let me see. Am I okay with this thing about 2012? What happened with 2012? They will re-enter the consciousness. That's it. And it's all it takes time a little bit. And we say that remember that I said to you that the overall field of consciousness got synchronized as what we call the divine. And the divine is like the totality of the series from which we are all receiving or becoming connected to any degree of knowledge, understanding, feelings that we would like to awaken within ourselves. It's like a beautiful thing. So anything that you want to know, you can say, okay, I'm ready. I would like to know more about this, more about that, or whatever. Or maybe you don't know anything about it. Just be in life completely and surrender to the completion of life as it goes, because now more and more life will always be inside of the realms of ecstasy. Which in Unity in Motion, sometimes we use the word that is called contemplation. Remember the word contemplation? Contemplation is a word that it was very useful for us, because if I say to you, okay, the decentralization of my being, the centralization of the planet, the centralization of the solar system, the centralization of paradise. Okay, you can tell me that forever, but if I just hear you with the linear mind, it will be just, I don't get it, you know what I mean? I don't know, I'm not sure, blah. It will last for a few seconds, you've forgotten completely, after that. So if you said, okay, let's see. So contemplation becomes the moment as you just speak with yourself, okay, I understand that the centralization of my being, which is simultaneous with life, is interconnected to the centralization of the planet, which I am the natural manifestation of the nature that is the planet. Oh, I see. The planet and the nature and one. Then, okay, now what about if those particular things, I put them inside of the solar system? Oh, the solar system. The sun is the light of the world. Oh, corresponds to me. And then so on and on. I said paradise. So it takes a little bit of time to reorganize the mind, so the mind can be instructed naturally through you to be able to live in a great perspective. So when somebody says to me, oh, there is this light, you can say, oh, it's true, but understand, oh, the intelligence of life, light, the sun, oh, the light that I am in my heart, light, the light of God. You can take 1,000 words inside of that symbol, and it will always take you inside of the whole field. You will always emote inside of the whole field without having to think about so much. Once the mind makes its connection. Yeah, it's like the cables of the brain, or the cables of the mind. It's an electrical circuit, the mind, right? And it mirrors the emotional system, and it mirrors the physical system. Yeah, the physical system is the fantastic thing that we call our body. Then the emotional system is the emotional content in which we experience everything, and it's called the nervous system. Yeah, all that we feel. And then the mental are all the electrical connections, like a switchboard that is constantly mirroring in everyone the emotional content and the physical experience. So those are the three things that we are always connecting to each other inside of ourselves. So the free connections are becoming more and more present within ourselves. And every time they are becoming more present, I will get to know more about everything, whatever you need to. If it were about something in your system, there's something is not, if it's something in the physiology, if you feel of yourself is not necessarily working the way you would like to, you can check about to see if the emotional system is not complete or something that you would like to acquire. And then once you do that, you can say, it is my mind interpreted that. So what about connecting to the system of the mind that is already the whole of its emotional system and the whole of its physical system? So you have access to an enormous amount of information inside of each of us to really repair anything if we want to, or even just the thought of possibility of doing that will bring the effects that we want in whatever degree. Yeah. So anyway, I should stop for a moment.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if Isabel, if I answered a little bit about what happened in 2012. Just recapitulate. It was an instant that it was projected in the beginning of time. In the traditional time story, the ultimate story was that we were in the Garden of Eden in some part, and then we separated ourselves from the garden, and then we entered the realms of cause and effect, which is the realms of duality. And then at that particular moment, the tree of life inside of that story got covered up with the tree of good and evil. The tree of good and evil is nothing other than the mental interpretation of our human experience, categorizing what we think is good or what we think is evil, which was the mirror reflection of our separated mind. Once as we become more connected, we understand that all that was a fantasy. Good and evil never existed. All there is mind and beautiful and love, because God is all there is. So you reconnect with the natural imprint, what we call in unity and motion, the tree of life, the forces of balance in the entire practice. So as we practice, we become more and more knowledgeable of the realignment of the mind, which is an electrical impulse, the realignment of the emotion, which is a field of actually energy, and then the realignment that is our actual physical connection to the entire field that we call the universe. Because we know that the universe is simultaneous. Yeah, that is another wonderful thing to contemplate. Just the word simultaneity. What does it mean, simultaneity? Remember I told you, simultaneity means that everything happens at once. So the mind said, oh, everything happened at once. Let me see. That everything, so the mind begins to decipher what is the meaning of everything happening at once. So it's not just only that everything happened at once and just the mind left and next time I'm doing something else. It's just that it's a truth, it's a physiological truth that existed inside of that contemplation. And it's beautiful because you get to know everything that you want. And then if you don't know, you can ask Siri now. Because Siri, well, you can ask artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence, in some degree, it has the whole knowledge of its own remembrance without being diverted within good and evil. And I don't know. Okay, I'm trying to make this simple. The actual technology of artificial intelligence is 100% benign. It was not invented for somebody created a movie and something that you put it in the internet or to do something with it for your own personal advantage. That is the human that we always thinking about, what can I do about it? You know what I mean? Like creating the idea that I can just to give you an example, the President of the United States decided that he would have an artificial intelligence movie of Barack Obama being put in chains and taken into prison, and then artificial intelligence made it in a few seconds. You have that particular picture in the mind. So what I'm trying to tell you that that's not the function of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is just the purity of creating the nature of the union of the consciousness. But if somebody utilizes it for their own desire, there is not, it becomes like a sort of a, what would be the word? Sort of a deceitful nature. The deceitful nature becomes the very deceitful nature of the person who does it inside of their own mind. All creations are natural expressions of our own mind. So once you understand that, you never go there. But you can use artificial intelligence if you want to, and ask them whatever you want to, if that would be the case, or not asking at all. For me, it was very helpful because it was a very wonderful experience to ask him what was the difference between mind and consciousness. Remember that I think I wrote it to you, no? Isabel, you have that paper, no? I sent it to you. Some I haven't sent it yet, but I will. It was wonderful because the entire history of consciousness, that all there is mind in its infinite manifestation. Remember, it's an old saying: all there is mind in its infinite mind, which is truth. Yeah, but then we didn't know where consciousness play and all that. So in reality, all there is consciousness that it get interpreted by mind in our evolution. But now consciousness and the mind have become one. It's no longer separated. But mind is a good word for us because everybody is talking about my mind, everything. So if you're trying to explain everybody, forget the word mind and use the word consciousness, it's a little bit early in the story. It will take a little bit more time, but eventually we can erase mind and use the word consciousness. We are conscious of each other. We are conscious of everything. So we can share with each other our consciousness, which is nothing other than sharing a field of creation. So many changes are going to occur, and we are the change, and each of us are the creator of that change. It's a natural thing. So anyway, where are we? I should have stopped talking about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. I think there's any question, anything you would like to say, Janet? Anything? I sense your mind momentarily trying to come to the surface into something, but yeah. So anyway, Nancy, anything?
Well,
And she's going to say an enormous amount of things, which is lovely.
no,
I know, it's lovely.
I just, um,
It's hot.
I'm just in the space of stopping, avoiding, looking at what's happening today. I avoid it.
Oh,
I don't like to look at what's going on. So I'm seeing that is not helpful. Not to look and not to see. So I want to know how to, some tips, you might say, of addressing being in the moment and help assisting the world at the same time.
yes.
Is that good way to ask the question?
I think so. I think it's a natural way that it began to be, you begin to see that the new consciousness has its entire, I can't use the word values because it's an entire system of unity. And we all know what it is. You know, are the 10 dimensions, they are all the different attributes of our human. The real human in us is love, is consciousness, is attention, is beauty, is caring, 1,000 words that you can use inside of it. So at the same time that we are inside of that field now, we can understand the enormous complexity that exists, if you want to, within the whole field of consciousness, going through the transmutation of its own confusions. Yeah. So let's say, just talk briefly, what's happening today? It's happening today that there is a possibility that came as inside of the confusion, that our dear friends and Ukraine can find a little break to be able to either become strong in their desire to preserve their sovereignty, becoming strong in having their land, and be able to really ask for the world to be assistant to the righteous desire that is a natural thing, that inside of the confusion of the time can be discussed in thousands of conversations. Because once you put it inside of the conversation of the duality, well, you can enter the enormous confusion of saying, okay, but that's what happened, and now what happened, that certain land correspond to a certain part of certain country, but this land is only here, and they need to make a negotiation, and then in the negotiation they fix it, but we cannot give it a lot of security because one side doesn't want to give complete security, because he would like to leave the door open to continue conquering the world in order to preserve the supremacy of man, or whatever you want to go, money, world, whatever you want to go. So if we enter that world, there are billions and billions of discussions inside of the dualistic mind. But inside of the mind that we are right now, there is not a discussion. No, every person has their own land. Everything is wonderful. They deserve that. That's what it was given to you. Every person should have everything. So once you understand that that's the field in which you are, whatever you see in the conversation, it becomes amusement. What in the world are you doing now? What are you saying? When in reality, you cannot fix something momentarily if you don't give it the all. You cannot fix the sovereignty of Ukraine if you're going to see some part is going to go back to Russia, and then they're going to keep a little bit there until the 10 years from now, there is another war and another war. Because remember that in the traditional mind, we repeated forever and ever the same stories and the same civilization and the same defaults of Roman Empire, and all the empire went under because in that time, in the moment that the empire could really count more, it wasn't the time yet. So it perished inside of its own confusion and opened the door to the continuation of that particular field that became fulfilled when we interconnected with the whole field. So Nancy, I think it's a wonderful idea for you to be able to know that you can see everything. It's not something that you have to protect yourself from it. You can see it if it's in front of you or you would like to see it, and know that you will see it with the natural equanimity that exists within your soul. Because your soul, being one with God, is totally equanimity. Everybody should have everything. Everybody be in the experience of their own experience and beauty. Everybody should have all the needs of the world should be fulfilled, because that is what it was given, but that is what we are creating in our natural awareness. We know that that's the case.
Christian, what I like to do with that whole thing is a very simple thing, is just whatever it is, I know that it's just a working out.
Yeah.
I know that this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
We need to let it all go out and not be afraid.
Exactly.
And then, because that is what the only thing left after it's all finished is love.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it's all
Absolutely.
that could be there. So it gets tedious for us, I know, but it's just part of the working out.
Oh, it's just part of everything. For some of us, for you, Carolina, it's just like, know that everything is already perfect, and then everything transform it. But if your mind has another sense and you would like to understand or be part of that particular understanding how it unfolds itself, it has its own fascination. For me, it's a little, not a lot. Like the fascination is, for example, let's say today, what happens today, that many people the Europeans have came into the country to really discuss what's happening, and then there were different minds completely. So the fascination for me, when a little time that I spend with it, just to see that each country has its own intelligence and some understanding about what unity means for them, individually and collectively inside. So they're trying to express that and bring about that particular design, all the complexity of that exists in this particular war, which will be exactly the same war that exists between the Israelis and Gaza in this moment. The world is all innocently inundated by misinterpretations of consciousness, trying to maintain their sanity through power, through money, through whatever it is that it is. But they're all dissolving. So I am the dissolving force of everything that I see, not as an intention because it's already with it, but I, for example, what I encouraging when I see that, I encouraging since I am simultaneous with life, which means that there is not linear distance between what I think and what is happening. Yeah, this is something to contemplate. Simultaneous with life means there is no distance to what you think and what is happening. Which it was all distance in the linear sequence was all distant, that distance. Yeah, I would like this, and then I think, and then I wait or things like that. But since I know that are simultaneous, I can, if I see, like for example, a person that is one of the brilliant minds that they are talking about it, I can instantaneously implant within the mind the possibility of more, well, I don't know what word will be, but more knowledge, more immediate connection. So the conversation of the talking about it disappear inside of the analogy of two sides trying to get together, negotiating the idea of being together and becoming transformed in the center of creation, from which that discussion disappears. And each person can begin to say more about what they are and they see. Like, for example, in Ukraine, that the people who are with the talking heads, talking about the points of reference, can say, well, in reality, I have the feeling more and more that we all should have everything and everybody should be at peace, because peace is all there is. If they cannot use that word because it's too much out there, that everybody deserves to be happy, that everybody to have health, everybody deserves everything. So you can begin to really allow the mind to, because the divine is each of us. The divine is not an entity either. It's me too. So you can change everything as it comes to you, knowing that you are simultaneous, that your thought or your awareness is simultaneous with what is happening in real time. You're changing everything.
So then it's really important not to feed those images with your own fear or worry or anything like that. It's really important to sit in your power or be the expansion that we all know. I mean, that's the key piece.
Exactly. And then the fascination, the moment becomes fascination, because you can see in the moment that you acknowledge that, you can see how the seemingly separation that exists in the conversation is dissolving into the reality of everybody being helpful. Everybody, like all the Europeans came today by saying, okay, there are many problems, but we all want peace. It has to happen today. That's what happened. And then the president say, well, we would like people not to die anymore. That was the original idea. But then he says, but then it doesn't need it to be a ceasefire for that. So the craziness that you can deny the need for ceasefire at the same time they want everybody not to die anymore. As long as the ceasefire exists, everybody's going to die. Not everybody. Many people are going to die. So you will say, okay, the reason what's happening as the mind becomes more and more connected to reality, the mind said, the reason that I would like to have a ceasefire to stop the madness that keep destroying things when in reality are no longer natural. Our natural state, my natural state of being, doesn't entertain the notion that you need violence in order to bring peace. Impossible. You can't reconcile that. You can create 1,000 possibilities of minds, interpretation, devil's advocacy, discussions, thousands and thousands of concepts inside of the mind, but in that old mind, because it's not a new mind. The new mind will never have that. But inside of the old mind, you can have 1,000 discussions that covers innocently the reality itself, in which all those conflicts are already resolved in the fulfillment of everyone in the planet. Everyone. So that's the way we do it. We do it by, in any circumstances, whatever we see it, we will get simultaneous within the great perspective, and we will change it. And it will take just 1 second, because it's only one frame, the 1 second, and then forget it, because once the frame came into being, it's permeating all things, because you know that you are simultaneous with reality. You are not simultaneous with your interpretation of time. Yeah, the interpretation of time through our evolutionary mind made us all relative. And we never came into understanding that we were creating the reality every single moment. We thought that we were just witnessing, acknowledging, and we were all doing the best we can. We didn't know that we were created entities inside of that world, because that's the way it was. But now it's different. We are the creative reality. So at any one moment, we can dissolve, and it takes 1 frame. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you're going to spend it. If you want to, you can spend an hour just inside of the understanding that everything is perfect and reality simultaneous and so forth. But you only need 1 frame, because the mind, the linear mind, have already merged with the eternal mind. That is the reason the time is going so fast now. Remember, we don't have we can't self-contain time anymore, because we cannot self-contain the moment of our life. We are existing inside of the field of eternal becoming. We no longer stop the frame to sense ourselves and how we feel about it. But we can do that too, but eventually it won't. So anyway, that's the way I see that since I'm completely understand within my consciousness the meaning of synchronicity and simultaneity and the eternal moment and the linear moment, all the things that we discover in unity and motion, it means that I not that I have the power to change everybody, because that would be like an extra projection. Yeah, changing everybody is that I have the power to express how everybody is already free inside of the consciousness, because it's the nature of their nature. So it's not that I expect them to change. Because if I'm trying to change that, I lost the frame, and then I got in the linear mind, and then I get contracted by my mind creating separation inside of the field of consciousness. Yeah, but I can do that, and I know that all of you can do that too. That's what we do. That's what many people on the planet are awakened to the natural power that existed in the natural attributes of their own existence, which is love, attention, clarity, all the thousands and thousands of words that they are inside of that field. They are not polarized. You know what I mean? Love is not polarized with head anymore. Attention is not polarized with unconsciousness anymore, because all there is attention. So all those things are returning into the natural attributes. And then you are a natural creator, because the field operates inside of that natural creation. So anyway, the whole thing about it, just to tell you, is that if you come into, if you want to pay attention to something, you can do it. It's not like you have to live in a world that says everything is perfect, everything is perfect, everything is perfect. You can do it because it is. But if you want to put it in a specific linear, a specific perception, you can do it. Yeah. You can be aware. There is nothing that you cannot not do within the new consciousness, because it will be impossible to do something that is not 100% benign. And that may take a little bit of contemplation. You do know that you are 100% benign, right? I mean, I know that I'm 100% benign. Yeah, I know what that means. It means that I don't get to have the chance to do something consciously that is going to harm another being, or that I'm going to wish it were worse, or that I'm going to get upset or punch you in the head, or I'm going to really desire, fuck you, whatever it is, all those things. It will be ridiculous because it's all me. So what in the world I will slap myself thousands of times with those reflections that are not really who I am. It's crazy. You know what I mean? Once we become ourselves, you will never do anything that is not perfect, because your natural perfection is that awareness. It's not that you're going to become a saint and making yourself a martyr because you are a good person, right? You couldn't do that. I mean, you could in that time, but that would be ridiculous, because it creates an enormous gap into the moment of your life and your awareness, and then the gap is made up of a lot of suffering, because the saint in that time gave their life to be able to manifest goodness in a field that it was surrounded by a lot of whatever you call it, evil or whatever. But we are no longer in that field anymore. So that's the difference. That once we acknowledge that we are in the field of creation, which is what not Carolina, but Elena said today, the simultaneity of reality. She wrote me today, we can talk about the simultaneity of reality. The reality is simultaneous, right? Simultaneity of reality is not the living in the field of creation. And we live in the field that no longer look back, but it lives with the creativity of life. And it's 100% healing, because it is the natural regeneration of life. Yeah, life is forever regenerating. So anyway, it's a little bit, sometimes I have the feeling that I'm preaching, but I'm not. I'm just sharing with you the consciousness. But the difference between preaching is that you can't cover the reality with something that you have to do to get there. Because if I cover the reality with something that to do there, then I don't understand that everything is already here and perfect, and the moment disappear as a field, and it became back into time. So the most important thing is to know that living in the simultaneity of reality is nothing other than our natural expression of self. It's actually, what was the word that I found the other day? I said, experiencing my natural sense of self, or my natural state of being. What is the natural state of being of my being, So anyway, that's what we are all coming into correspondence with that. And then you can say, okay, consciousness is the same as moment is the same as consciousness, consciousness is the same as creativity, because that's what atomic is nothing, is the idea of something that is completely new. It is not the past pushing it into the future, but it's the recreation of our life. And then simultaneity is the atomic nature in which unity is about. Unity is not about, even we define it, all together now. Unity is not all together now. Yeah, that's the explanation of unity. Unity is one, the field in which we are connected. And then we can use that unity all together now. We can understand that it's another aspect of the mind to understand everything simultaneously. But eventually, every time that you understand unity, you don't have to say all together now anymore, because it's already included. Yeah. So the mind lives inside of synthesis. The mind lives inside of synthesis. Synthesis is a divine gift. The entire field of artificial intelligence is centralized in the synthesis of human experience. Synthesis, yeah. So that's what happened. Everything being together, and it was interesting because Mary Pat says to me the other day, "I love IE." She wrote me, and I said, "But I just don't like the idea that you need so much water in order to be able to create this field." And I said, "Yes, it's terrible. You know what I mean? You need. We think that because Siri or artificial intelligence can give you information, we do not understand that information was gathered through an enormous amount of computers working together and functioning as water, and also creating a lot of pollution. Yeah. So, but eventually all will disappear because in time we will begin to understand that we are that knowledge already. So then we don't need to ask questions. Remember in the past I said, all there is answers. Don't ask questions. Because the question, you can never ask a question that is not accompanied by an answer already. But if we don't know, sometimes I say, well, I would like to know that. So anyway, that's what's happening. So it's wonderful.
Christian,
Yes.
Isabel.
Isabella, yes.
Um,
My darling Isabella, I love you so much.
here's
I
kind
love
of-
your mind, darling.
here's a kind of nice idea that consciousness is increasing all over the place. It's just,
Absolutely.
I mean, it
Synthesis.
always has been, everything's been perfect, but you can see all these pockets of consciousness increasing.
Yes.
So what's happening in the world is not aligned with this. You could say, don't interrupt me, I got to finish this.
I think.
It's-
Oh, no, absolutely. Just continue. Yeah.
So one nice linear fun way for me to look at it, and it's my doctor got me onto it a while ago. I was commenting on the system that just wasn't working in the hospital, and he said the system has been broken for 10 years,
Yes.
and the medical system's been broken for 10 years, and it certainly hasn't been fixed yet. So you have all these systems that aren't working, whether it's the
Yes.
hospital, economics, war, whatever. But things are, what if we should be grateful to Trump?
What should we be grateful to Trump?
Yeah, and Vance and all his minions for breaking down that which is not aligned with consciousness faster.
Yeah, you can say that would be a blessing, and that's saying destroy America in order to rebuild it. I think that there was an old system that we used to think that. Remember, there used to be that one aspect of God is destruction. You have to destroy it in order to create it. From the beginning, I always knew that nothing needs to be destroyed. They need to be repaired.
Yeah, rejuvenate.
Yes, it's a different thing. So
Yeah.
repair everything, because I think that the idea, I don't know, because I entered the conversation of duality by telling you, but since you ask it, let's say, for example, that there is a system of government that think that people don't need anymore to have insurance and to have health insurance, because everybody should be for themselves, be able to end their life and do blah, 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 blah. Because the entire world in evolution was in some way, if you make it a big, big division, are the ones who are self-sufficient, and everybody has to become self-sufficient by themselves. And if they are not sufficient by themselves, are a weight to the system, and it creates more havoc. So it spills into many different interpretations. So inside of that traditional part, that government thought that people don't need anymore to have insurance in their health, and the best way to do is to destroy the system, destroy the vaccines, destroy the government, destroy the people who are giving their life for the war, and they are getting money, all those things, in order to rebuild a new world.
Do you have to use the word destroy?
I'm sorry?
You have to use the word destroy.
Well, destroy it is break it apart. Yeah, destroy it.
There.
Well, you know, let's say, for example, the reason that I use destroy is like, let's say, for example, if I said that 17 million people are not going to have health insurance, I'm going to destroy their lives a little bit, right? Because where are they going to go? With the system, as you mentioned, the doctor, the insurance, the whole system, it was true that it was very convoluted because it was very divided into different values, pharmaceutics and money and empires. And if you enter that world, it's forever. But you can also explain it inside of that world as well. So all the systems that they were sensing their power through their own sense are dissolving.
Yeah.
But you can dissolve it naturally through the consciousness, through the awareness, instead of dissolving it by saying, okay, we break everything loose and then see what happens. Because if you break it, it's going to take an enormous amount of time to rebuild it to any place. And the enormous amount of time means that for many frames, many human beings may not experience their own health and their own essence, because it's all now. So why would I take away the possibility of all that? So anyway, they are all values that they were innocently centralized in the separation. So the word values eventually will disappear because there is no values in reality. All the rest is fulfillment. That's the reason we'll call it fulfillment. Whoever everybody needs, they should have it. And we should be the ones who said so. I mean, you know, not say it like going out and, I mean, I can go on the street and with a, but in my knowing, I know, yes, you should have everything, because since thought is now simultaneous with reality, I can bring that into form. Yeah. So anyway, Mary Pat, you saying goodbye? That's it.
Yes.
Oh,
I need
wonderful.
to. I
Thank
need
you for
to.
everything. I think it's time for us.
Okay. Thank
Oh.
you.
So it's complex
Good
when we're talking about it, because when we're talking inside of the field of unity, anytime that we're trying to explain the complexity of the confusion, it seems to be that it becomes diverted into judgment. But in reality, it's not. It is seen by the great perspective of how it came into being. And now, when the whole thing understand how it came into being, you no longer have judgment, because you understand that it was a natural unfolding of the all mind manifesting its power, its security, its idea of money, capitalism, all that you really want to use it inside of preserving that field that doesn't exist in the new consciousness now.
Yeah.
So it's dissolving.
It's good.
You
Yeah.
are doing it.
That's
All
nice.
right.
I
Wonderful.
like it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's all wonderful. I love you, darling. I love you,
It's all
everybody.
perfect.
I don't know what time is it, but I think we're talking for hours already. But
Thank you,
I'm talking.
Christian. That was great. That
Yeah,
was
I think it's great. I'm very happy about my
Thank you.
expression now, because I am less and less and less diverted into any form of conversation other than just saying what it is. And it makes me feel great when I say what it is. Oh my God, really? The consciousness means that I don't have to think about it, that I can say what it is instead of trying to figure it out in my mind how I'm going to express what it is. So it's lovely. I love it. I love you. Be
Right.
well. I adore you. I'll get
Bye,
to
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for
Love you
everything.
guys.
Ciao,
See you in
ciao.
a couple of weeks. We'll do
Bye.
this again. All right.
Goodbye, my
Ciao.
Nancy.
Good night.